Hey Olympia! Today we're talking about the November 19th, 2024 City Council meeting, and it was like the closure of a lot of things we've been working on for a long time, so it kind of felt good to kind of put tie a bow on a bunch of stuff finally just before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so this is Council in 10.
For the record, I'm Kelly Purse-Brassett.
And I'm Susan Grisham.
Okay, before we get started, apparently there's some business we need to attend to. If you watched our last couple of shows, you'll know that we might have gone over a tad bit over 10 minutes by a lot.
Like a lot.
So there was a discussion, maybe a lecture, maybe some demands that we should keep the premise the same.
Do our recap in under 10 minutes or get a silly punishment?
Or change it to give ourselves some leeway. But we want to know what is actually more useful to you. You know, what are you more likely to watch? Do we
keep the punishments? The whole point of the show is an easily digestible, concise recap. More than 10 minutes is just too long. I can watch the actual council meeting if I want more details on a particular item. The timer keeps them motivated and the game keeps it fun. Or
get rid of the punishments. Just make it Council in 10-ish. It's more important to provide all the details and fully explain things than to gamify the show. Give each item the time it deserves within reason, even if it makes the show longer. I will watch the show still.
Our fate is totally up to you, Olympia. So vote right now on all of our social media channels.
I do, and Susan, we have opinions.
I might have already voted.
And until that time, while that vote is happening, we're going to turn the timer off and sort of free flow it. Woohoo! So now that that's over, let's get down to business. Susan, hit the button. Let's start with roll call, Susan, because Councilmember Danny Madrone was excused, but Susan Grisham was not.
Sorry, I was not at the meeting last night.
Apparently someone decided to have a life on a Tuesday night.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So there were some announcements. As you know, apparently there was a bomb cyclone going on. And so the mayor made an announcement that if the stormy weather hit and the power went out, just letting people know that the broadcast would probably be gone, as well as the Zoom feed. So just a little warning, but everything went just fine. So the agenda was approved with an amendment to add item 6G, which is an ordinance on ad valorem tax. We're back to Latin. Okay.
Yes. It's our second cut at that.
Our second cut. You know, Latin is a hard language. Okay, so then we had public comment. We only had one person in person. And no one remote, and this was one of our LTAC, our lodging tax fund recipients, who came to talk about their funding and hoping the council might consider giving them a little bit more.
Oh, interesting.
Give it a sec. And then we went to consent. And there was one pull. Item 4F was pulled for comment by Assistant City Manager Stacey Ray. This was about repealing and replacing the ordinance language around the police auditor. The changes will reflect the Social Justice and Equity Commission recommendations about the role of the auditor. Those recommendations have been approved by council, and they decided to just like repeal and replace the language rather than edit it because the changes were so significant.
Yeah, because that's really an expanded role for our police auditor.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was a lot of process in terms of how this worked and the whole community oversight of law enforcement. It all goes into that. There were no public hearings, so we moved right into other business. Item 6A was a resolution on an intention to change the parking and business improvement area assessment rate. And Mike Reed, our economic director, was the presenter on this one. Basically, the process in the law requires a resolution if the PBIA advisory committee or the city wants to make a rate change for the ratepayers, and those rates are paid by business owners downtown. So, and this is all based on the fact that the PBIA is hitting its 20th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years. And it hasn't really had a chance to sort of do some internal analysis and look. So they want to spend some time. They want to spend 2025 doing some deep dive into what the PBIA should look like and be in the future. And as they do that work, they don't want to charge ratepayers because they're going to be so internally focused. So they want to assess zero for ratepayers for 2025. This is sort of a temporary thing while they do this analysis. It'll involve some stakeholder engagement with ratepayers and downtown property owners. Council was supportive of them doing this analysis. There was conversation about what things would look like, earlier. But the PBIA voted unanimously to do this. And part of not doing it is not doing the flower baskets that happen.
I was going to ask, what are we not going to have this next year because of that?
Well, the PBIA will not have flower basket. Apparently, the city of Olympia will have flower
yes, they'll also
baskets
have flower
because
baskets.
council wanted them, and the city manager said we will find a way to make sure that downtown is beautiful in the summer with lots of flower baskets, just as the PBIA will do it. So they approved the resolution and set us forth with a mission to do flowers
And
in
there
the
will be a
summer.
public hearing forthcoming.
Yeah, forthcoming. Yeah. So the way this works, there'll be on December 10th there will be a public hearing on the resolution because that's the next step in that, and then there will be the final, not an ordinance, but a final vote on it on December 17th, the final meeting, and then 6B. The next item was just a briefing. There was no council action on this one, on the police department acquiring 12 patrol cars. So there were several presenters. Deputy Chief Shelby Parker talked to council about what the problem was. They have 30 patrol cars. 16 of those cars are what they call hot seated, which means they run 24/7. They're first of all, they're packed with equipment, videos, computers, all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in there, but they just rotate. So someone does a shift, they leave, and someone else gets in the car, and they do their shift, and somebody else. So those cars are just
Constant rotation.
running 24/7. So they need to expand the fleet. So they're looking at leasing cars and moving to an assigned model where, and because there's limited room for more
Yes,
cars.
very much so.
So, but if an assigned model, then instead of 24/7, they are assigned to an officer, and the officer takes their car with them. So. But an ongoing question around the acquiring of these cars has been for council. Our commitment to moving our fleet to electrification, electrical vehicles, or alternative fuels. So Ton Jeffers, our Deputy Director of Public Works, and Jaime Matache, our Fleet Operations Supervisor, came to talk about what was going on with that. So these cars will not be EV because they run 24/7 and carry a really high electrical load. Computer, videos, cameras, all that stuff. It's just they tried. They had some hybrid cars, and they just wore them out. They had so many problems. They were always in service because they're just running hot all the time.
And that's technology that's evolving as we speak too. So
Absolutely. So they told council that they are working on a fleet electrification master plan. That a lot of our fleet does have either like public works, all of the fire cars and the some of the public works heavy duty things are either using alternative fuels or are electronic. So there's that commitment is there, but they're working towards moving the fleet toward electrification. But they're just not able to do it with this leasing of these particular cars right now for patrol. So OPD will lease the 12 cars using public safety, the leftover public safety levy funds. And that leasing will actually give them flexibility because we just don't have the technology and the infrastructure now to support these, heavy duty electrical stuff. So, but if that changes in 3 years or 5 years, well, then the leased cars, you can send them back versus purchasing them, losing the value of the cars. And being kind of stuck with the car. So
we're able to adjust as time and technology goes on.
Absolutely, that is us. We are flexible and electric. Sing the body electric. Okay, I'm burning time with poetry. So here we go. 6C. Our final other business is the final budget balancing, and that was Jay and a bunch of other people in support. So. Sort of just hitting the highlights of that. On the general fund, Jay talked about organizational changes he'd made that the council had asked about around direct reports. Basically, our housing and homeless services group and economic development will be moving out from under the assistant city managers and the city manager to community planning and development department. And there will be, and we've added a council support position to the budget. And he talked about the reductions that happened. There was a $3.6 million in reductions in personnel that happened with this budget. It's been really hard.
Significant.
Yeah, and it's impacted 26.75 FTEs, and those FTEs are actually people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And 5 of those, out of that 26, almost 27 people, 5 are really at risk for having that may have to leave the city. But the city has tried to be really intentional. He talked about and Manny Bosser, the HR director, came and talked about the care that's been taken to be intentional and to make decisions from the heart as we had to make really tough decisions around the budget. And so anyone who might be leaving the city, who's at risk to leave the city, that won't happen until the end of February because we're not going to send people out the door over the holidays. It also gives people time to find other things and also what might open up at the city too. So
trying to create soft landings for folks as we can.
Right. And Manny talked about how hard it's been on our employees and how hard it's been on managers who've had to deliver really hard news and make really hard choices. And so we talked about that. And the final gap in the budget ended up being $4.1 million, which we were able to close with reserves and still keep more than 12% of the reserves funds in there. Also in that conversation was we heard from Parks Director Paul Simmons about their reductions of about $278,000 from their Parks General Fund budget. And as part of that, they've lost a position around cultural events, and they're going to be revisiting the whole cultural events model. And so they're talking with our partners in the community about what that might look like. And then Mike Reed came back to talk about lodging tax, and there were 30 applications that requesting more than $1.2 million in lodging tax funds. And they're awarded $1.1 million in funds to those people. And there was conversation about one particular award for Lake Fair. And there have been conversations over probably the last couple of years about a difference of opinion about approach. To the pageant specifically. Lake Fair is a beloved
It's an institution.
an institution, and there's this one part of it that there's some conversation about. So they awarded those the funds for Lake Fair contingent on a conversation about those. The city manager and the council both talked about how that this was the most challenging budget they've ever had to do. And there was a lot of appreciation for finance staff that came through. This was really hard for them as well. And appreciation for the staff. Council voted. Their motion. They did an interesting thing. So they approved the budget, but they pulled the LTAC vote for a separate vote because one of the council members was they had two options for Lake Fair. Option A being to fund them on contingent, and option B was to not fund them at all. They voted for option A to fund them, and one of our council members wanted to lodge a dissenting vote about it. So it passed 5-1, and the budget as a whole passed 5-0. So what's next with that is it will come back to council in the form of ordinances.
Yes, December 10th.
December 10th,
Yeah.
first reading, and then
The 17th
this
will
will
be.
be the second reading.
Yeah.
So that ended the other business. They went on to council reports. There was a conversation around law enforcement pursuit laws and policies. The council member Cooper had been in conversation with Deputy Chief Parker about Olympias, and we're doing great on ours, but sometimes other jurisdictions' pursuits cross borders, and so there was a conversation around that. Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen will preside over the December 3rd study session because the mayor will be out. There'll be no meeting next week because we will only have turkey and gratitude. So,
Gratitude.
all right. And the meeting ended, I don't know, just before 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, close to about 9. So, and that was it. Bing. All right. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live, you can see the full city council meeting we just talked about, or you can watch it and anything else we produce on Oli TV3 on demand anytime on olitv3.com, and download our app, Oli TV app. It is really good.
And if you want to watch a council meeting live and in person, we're here most Tuesdays at 6 p.m., except I wasn't here yesterday.
Some of us are. We'll save a seat for you.
And with that, we're adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.